Would level scaling actually work in Pokemon Sword and Shield if it was put into the games? Let's talk about that. Hello there, this is Retro and Chill, and welcome to the channel where we discuss all things Pokemon. If this is your first time here, make sure you click on that subscribe button so you never miss a video. It was reported prior to the release of Pokemon Sword and Shield that there would be level scaling. So if you brought in a team of level 100 Pokemon, enemy trainers and wild Pokemon would also be level 100. It turns out that wasn't the case, and that it was actually a miscommunication between Game Freak and the IGN reporters who initially broke the story. The publication has since issued corrections, but that wasn't before a bunch of us found out for ourselves and were unfortunately disappointed. I was actually looking forward to that. But it got me thinking, is level scaling even possible for Pokemon? And if it is, how exactly should we go about doing it? So theoretically, level scaling would ensure that the game is consistently difficult from start to finish. You may or may not have seen this chart before, where we have on one axis the level of the player's skill, and on the other, the difficulty of the game. Our ideal difficulty is here in the middle of the chart, which we know as the flow channel. If the game is not difficult enough for the player's current level of skill, they get bored. If the game is too difficult for the player's current level of skill, they get frustrated. The plan here would be to use scaling levels to ensure that the player cannot get overpowered and thus get bored, or be underpowered and thus get frustrated. Unfortunately, there are a lot of considerations that need to be made before a system like this would be implemented. The biggest issue is that it may give the player a feeling as if they're not getting stronger, because as they get higher leveled, so do the enemies. There's no way to get stronger to overcome an obstacle because the enemy is just going to get stronger with you. An example of a game that has some of these issues is Final Fantasy VIII. The issue in that game was that enemy stat gains per level were higher than yours as the player. So that means they got stronger faster than you did. That has more to do with other systems in Final Fantasy VIII, not just the level scaling though. The other issue is that you could potentially miss out on certain items and drops if you got too high of a level, because those changed as enemies got stronger and there was no way to go back to fight weaker enemies to get those drops. So we bring ourselves back to the Pokemon series and we have to ask ourselves the question, is that going to be an issue in those games? The answer is not really, at least not to the extent that it was in Final Fantasy VIII. Due to the fact that you and the AI draw from the same group of creatures means that you're not really going to have that issue, especially since only major trainer battles have EVs typically, and other battles generally don't. So there is no way for your enemies to get stronger at a faster rate than you. In fact, they could actually get weaker at a faster rate than you because you gain EVs for defeating enemies. Another thing that would make your opponents too weak is the fact that, as we saw in the Isle of Armor, many trainers were using unevolved Pokemon. And as we know, unevolved Pokemon have lower stats than their final evolved forms. So as you get higher level and you evolve your Pokemon to their final forms, that means your enemies, if we just did straight level scaling, solely off of the fact that they were just using weaker Pokemon. So to ensure that that's not an issue, I propose the following. Each individual area will have a specific range of levels that enemies will fall into. So that means that there will be a lower bound and an upper bound to their levels. They will not go below that lower bound and they will not exceed that upper bound. So that this will make it so that enemies meaningfully scale to your level, but you still feel like you're getting stronger because eventually you will pull ahead of them. However, I'm going to say that this bounding should only be applied to regular trainers. Special trainers, such as your rival and gym leaders, should always scale to your current level. And to always ensure that they have good Pokemon against you, they will have different teams depending on what your levels are, so that their Pokemon are always sufficiently evolved. But they should never really go below the lower bound. There still should be a minimum level of strength that the player should train to before they start scaling. What this will ensure is that every major storyline battle is consistently challenging. And that's really important because that's what these battles are supposed to be. But hey, this is just my idea. If you have a different one, feel free to let me know in the comments down below. Also, if you enjoyed this video, be sure to leave a thumbs up and subscribe for more Pokemon content, as well as some stuff about other JRPGs possibly. But until next time, guys, peace.